Hello, grade 12. We'll go through some short descriptions of certain things in this chapter 9 for networks. All about networks. Right, so first of all, grade 10 and 11, we know why networks were created. And you can read there: communication, shared resources, centralization of data, transfer of files, increased productivity and leisure. Make sure to study those. Remind yourself. Right, networks categorized in according to their size. So we have a LAN, which is a home or office or building. And they have between 2 and 25 computers connected in a LAN. And you can either use cables like Ethernet cable. When you see the word Ethernet, you're talking about a RJ45 network cable, which consists of copper wires, or you can talk about Wi-Fi connection between computers. And of course, those computers can then share resources and transfer files and communicate. Then we have a WAN, a wide area network, which is could include people in a suburb or city, but it's often used to refer to the internet. And the internet is the world's largest WAN. LAN, in other words, are private, but WANs are not private. But you do need to get permission from a company that manages a service in order to connect to a wide area network. And we use ISPs, internet service providers, to connect us to the internet. And of course, the internet is like a whole connection of a whole lot of other wide area networks and local area networks. So that is the largest WAN, or wide area network. Another way to categorize networks is based on how the devices or computers are connected to each other. Now, with client-server networks, you can have one or more servers that provide access to certain resources to the computers, and the computers are the clients. And clients can have certain levels of power. Client computers can't actually access another client on a network. The server can access all the clients. But with a peer-to-peer network, there's no central computer or server, and each computer can work directly with every other computer on the network, and all the computers are very visible to each other. We call them peers. They can share files and resources with each other. You can imagine the security is not so good in peer-to-peer network. Now, the different parts of a network. How do you link devices in a network? The device is called a node. A node. When you hear the word node, we're talking about a computer or a printer or a cell phone or a smartphone or a laptop. Those are the different nodes of a network. How do we link them together? Well, whether you have wired networks or wireless networks, you need to have devices. For a wired network, you need a switch, a network cable, switch and a network cable. And a wireless base station is for networks that are not wired, in other words, wireless networks. So they use the word switch, but a router can work as a switch as well. The task is for both of them, switch or router, to allow multiple computers to connect. And as you can see, these are little ports, the RJ45 cables go in there. So that, and this is an actual switch with all the different ports on it. So the switch or the router is a controller, enables the devices to actually connect and talk to each other. The only difference between a switch and a router is a router connects multiple networks together. So a switch will connect all the computers together, whereas a router connects all different networks together. But they can also connect computers to the internet. So routers enable all network computers to share a single internet connection. So we normally use a switch to get all the devices together. Like all the computers in the lab are connected to a switch, and then that switch is connected to a router somewhere else. Right, the network cables that are used for all this connection is called, they're Ethernet cables, RJ45. There's your twisted pairs of wires. It's got 4 of them. 4 twisted pairs. Pairs meaning 2. If you are connecting to the internet, then you need a DSL enabled phone cable or a fiber optic cable. So your phone cable is slightly different to a network cable. If you have a phone at home, a telecom phone, should I say, with a cable in it, you'll see it's smaller than a network cable. So that would be a DSL enabled, and then a fiber optic cable. Some of you will probably have fiber optic internet at home. Fiber, they call it fiber. Sorry, now I've highlighted everything here, but never mind. So those are the different types of cable. Fiber optic cable, phone cable, network cables you need for connecting computers to each other or to the internet. Network cables are used to connect the computers to each other, and if you look in the lab, you'll see network cables coming out of everybody's computer. That is RJ45 that goes straight to the switch. And then if you're at home, for instance, you might have a phone cable for the internet or fiber optic cable. Now the wireless base station is for obviously a wireless network. So you have a transmitter receiver. That is what the wireless base station consists of, a transmitter and a receiver, and that could also be linked to a wired network. So your wireless base station is basically a router that will communicate with devices based on the Wi-Fi standard. Okay, so you can have an all-in-one router, because routers have multiple Ethernet ports, and they can be used to connect all of the different components to each other and connect to the internet as well. So you have an all-in-one solution when you're at home or in a small office. Okay, connecting to the internet itself. Okay, these are some diagrams here showing a switch and then all the computers together. You can just imagine your lab at school. Even then the printer has a network cable connecting to the switch. Right, connecting to the actual internet, so we need a router or a modem. They look similar, but they are slightly different. The modem provides access to the internet. It modulates or demodulates the signal to connect to the internet. It connects to your ISP and provides you have either a cable or ADSL, like a and the modem will have that telephone cable that goes into the telephone socket. The router allows a whole lot of computers to join to the same network. So routers, before, they only had wired, but now they provide wireless connectivity as well, and they allow multiple computers and devices like smartphones and tablets to join the same network. They also have an Ethernet port at the back to connect to connect network cable. So To access the internet, you need to have an high-speed internet service provider, which will provide you with your wired or wireless connection. It will also give you the internet service provider at home, your one at home, like Telcom or whatever, or MWeb, whatever. It gives your device an IP address. So your internet service provider allocates the IP address to your MAC address. If you're in a lab, your IP address is allocated to you by the router. So your internet service will give you either wired or wireless connection to the internet. You must make sure you have a computer, an internet connection channel, internet communication device, but they normally provide the hardware for you. So here's the different types of internet: ADSL, WiMAX, it's a wireless type of internet connection, and 4G and 5G, which is your cellular internet connection. So ADSL, you need a router or a computer and a smartphone, you need a telephone line, and ADSL enabled on the telephone line, and then a router for the communication. For WiMAX, you need any computer and need to connect to a router. There's no physical channel needed because it's wireless. You need a mobile router with an external satellite or antenna. So with 4G and 5G, a smartphone or any computer connected to a router are wireless, so no physical channel. A USB dongle, a mobile router, or a smartphone is your communication device. So there's a diagram of an LTE router connecting nodes to the internet. There's the transmitter receiver over there. So yeah, and this is one this is an example of what you would have in your classroom. All the nodes here being the computers, and then the switch connecting all the nodes, and then the router connecting to the switch, and the router connecting everything to the internet. So we talked about the all-in-one solution. Let's move on. Sharing concepts. Well, one of the biggest advantages is to share files and folders in a computer with other computers on the network. So people on the network can open and view files, they can copy files to the computers, they might be able to modify files or delete them, and their user rights are set to give you permissions on files that are shared. And we're talking all kinds of networks, whether it's client server or peer-to-peer. You can specify how you want to give access to your files on your computer. But in a client server, the server operating system allows the person in charge of the network to give users access in different ways. So you all know about that. You've often been able to write files to certain places, but you can't delete from there, and so on. You have different access, and the disadvantage of user rights, it's quite time consuming and difficult to set up. That is true. And sometimes you have to make changes when new users are added to the network. In other words, new computer or new login, a new learner, and then sometimes you have to make changes if the user needs are changing. And some programs in a shared folder will not function if a user does not have full user rights. Alright, so those are disadvantages. Then we're talking about BitTorrent, peer-to-peer technology to share files. Now remember, the normal way to share files is in a network between computers. where you copy a file from another computer, but over here, BitTorrent, you don't just copy from a single computer, you're copying from a lot of computers at the same time. In other words, the files do not rely on a single person sharing a file. There's anyone who downloads a file starts sharing it with other people. So that means if you've downloaded 10% of a shared file, you also share that 10% with new people who start to download the file. So torrents facilitate the sharing of bandwidth, allowing users to download files more quickly than they would from a single source, because you are basically downloading files from different places at the same time. So different pieces of your files coming from different computers all over. What are the benefits? Data used to upload the file is shared between all users downloading the file. The bandwidth is also shared, allowing users to download the file more quickly. The file isn't sitting on a single website or a single person. People may continue to share it for years after it was first shared. So, for websites using torrents to share pirate material, the website itself is not sharing their illegal materials. It's actually the people who are busy downloading. So it's very difficult to prosecute the website owners for copyright infringement. So yeah, it's the actual person doing the downloading of the files that is liable. The files are peer-to-peer. You can never be sure that this is a disadvantage. You can't be sure that the file you are downloading is what you're looking for, because many users use torrent files to share viruses. And then of course your ISP is going to throttle or shape torrent downloads. Throttle, in other words, prevent downloads. What does shape mean? Well, for instance, if you have uncapped and shaped internet, that means you only have a certain limit that you can go to, and you pay less for that. But if you have uncapped and unshaped internet access, then you have unlimited access to the internet. But uncapped internet is not necessarily unlimited. If it's shaped, it means you have a top top usage level that you may not go over. So ISPs can prevent you from downloading them at high speed. And also, torrents are often used to pirate videos and music. And when you use torrents to download material, you are personally sharing pirate material with other people. So distributing pirate material is punished more severely by law than receiving pirated material. So if you download pirated material, you are sharing pirated material with torrents, because remember, when you download a file, you're actually allowing other people to download it too from your computer, so you are sharing it. Okay, so the primary use of torrents is basically for pirating, all that entertainment stuff. But there is some legitimate reasons for using torrents, and that would be Linux installations, or any companies that use large applications. You share large applications, because it's a distributed nature of sharing that we use with BitTorrent, and it's a good way to share massive files. Right, let's get back to online services now. Right. Want to share files with people on the internet. I know we can share files at school and at home on our computers, on the network, but if you want to share on the internet, in other words, other people from far away, then use online services. And here's the examples of them: search engines, cloud storage services. Okay, four popular ones: Dropbox, Mobile Me, never heard of it, G Suite, Google. We used Google Classroom once, long ago. And then Office 365, which we are using with Microsoft Teams. So Dropbox is a popular one. It's a very popular cloud storage, transferred synchronous files. Mobile Me is one for your iPhone, to ensure your iPhone and your computer are in sync. So that's why we don't hear about it often. G Suite, Google Apps, in other words, for work. If you go to your Google account, you will log into as a Google account, you'll have access to YouTube, etc., and Google Classroom and Google Drive. And then we have Office 365 online, which allows you to have access to Microsoft Teams and Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, all those other wonderful things. And Office, what do they call it? OneDrive. OneDrive would be your Office drive where you can share things online. Okay, remote access now. So you'll be able to see the remote computer's monitor. You actually have control over a computer remotely, or you can just download files. So there's two ways of actually having remote access to another computer. And why would we want to do that? Basically for fixing problems, or working from home or whatever. So in order to allow us to have remote access, I know it's a Windows operating system program, Windows Remote Desktop. Well, the remote computer must have remote access enabled. You must be on the same network or the internet actually. You must know the IP address of the remote computer, and you must know the username and password for the remote computer. So it's a lot of things you need in order to do that, and then you can work on a computer remotely. Doing it from over the internet, managing your home computer from school, etc., or vice versa, or connecting to your friends or family's computers anywhere in the world. So you need, and then there's another one called remote desktop connection is one where you can have control over the computer. And then there's another way, which is TeamViewer, which is an application that you need to download. You need both computers, one that you want to connect to and the one that you are using to connect. Both must have the same version of it, and obviously internet connections. And there's two options: you can either do remote control or file transfer. Remote access using a VPN, virtual private network. Right, a virtual private network we have seen before. Basically, it's connecting to a network via the internet, but using secure usernames and passwords to connect. Private network that can connect to over the internet. It is a service that encrypts your online traffic and enables you to access the internet with complete privacy and security. Once you connected, you can access shared files, printers, and computers as if you were physically connected to the network itself. So if you have a school network at school, say, that you log into, if you have and you want to go onto that network from home, then you use a virtual private network, which allows you to access everything on the network like you would do if you were at the school. And you can also then use remote access to connect to a computer on the VPN. So doing it over the internet is very useful. And that's the end of that, and I'll see you on the next one.